Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Untamed Empires. As we last left it, your group of sailing companions is making their way across the ocean towards the Separate Isles and past it into unknown territory to meet the shipwrights and shipbuilders who constructed Duke Garibaldi's airships. However, the trade winds have not been kind and have forced you to, one, no longer fly but to sail, and two, to head off track a little bit, gather supplies a far-flung island, and then ultimately seek harbour in a tiny speck of land in the middle of the ocean where one of the ships was damaged, was being repaired. You have elected to head into the island, up the hill, to see if you can find a source of fresh water to give the ships plenty of water to make it across the other half of. Did I miss anything?
I think that's largely it.
Okay, nice and easy this time. That's good. The group of you, including Acacia and Celeste and Morgan companionship, have made your way across this very windswept landscape. There's a dusty and featureless set of rocks. As you've up towards the hill, notice that there are ruins, very, very badly ruined ruins from an ancient civilization, presumably from the days before the Pulse War or thereabouts. And the storm that has been battering you as you were sailing is battering you as you cross the open landscape to the point where you start to climb the slope of the hill. When the winds intensify, the sand is getting whipped at you, going to flay your skin. You take refuge behind some large boulders, ruins still above you on the hillside. And that's where I called it last time. We come back to it now. All right, there are the 6 of you, counting Celeste, plus it was mentioned that you took with you a couple of the engineers from on board the ship. Is that right?
I'm not sure the engineers from the ship.
Ah, okay. So when you say you got a couple of engineers, you mean that you have?
I think we have
Hendrik.
Henry.
Oh no.
Exactly, we have our normal people with us.
I wasn't sure that Arnaud was with you, but if you would have insisted, then of course he'd have no choice but to come along. So he'd be happy about that, though. He would have been looking to do repairs on the other ship, certainly, because of course they need to get that ship sealed up and ready to sail again. That's
I
up to
can't
you.
believe we made him come if he didn't want to.
Well,
Oh,
the Baron gets
yeah.
to make the call. It's his.
I think I'd be very happy to have him come with us. He could be useful, and we want to keep our group together, just in case.
All right, you're going to insist he comes. He will come.
Choice, Arno?
With all my heart, no. Absolutely not. I have.
Okay.
I'm a shipwright. I have a ship that's listing to port here and needs to be repaired. Why on
Then-
earth would I go into a dust bowl?
then
With
that
great
is
respect
simple.
to yourself, Baron.
You can do more good here, then, Monsieur. Keep an eye on the Duke Garibaldi's men, and keep yourself safe, man.
Your insight is admirable. Thank you, Baron.
Excellent. Hendrik then does our engineer.
And given that you're heading to a bunch of ancient ruins, his knowledge of Celestia may be just the thing.
Exactement.
I think Vincent came with us to help disguise Acacia's presence and to protect.
That may be the case. Certainly.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that he certainly would do. So yes, absolutely. I can imagine that the Duke would almost insist on it if he could, thus protecting his Acacia.
I believe that Acacia had slipped off and Vincent had caught her and
Ah,
decided.
excellent. Yes, that may have been it. Well remembered. But so it is that you're huddling behind this set of rocks, trying to keep out of this wind. It's throws sand and dirt into your faces as it scours the landscape. And, just a little short of the ruins ahead of you. Baron, what are your instructions to everybody?
Well, we're sort of sandblasted. Let's get sandblasted rock. Let's get closer to the ruins. It could be something interesting there.
Well, certainly the theory when you were heading off was that if people used to live here,
Exactly, there'd be water here. Exactly, a covered well. There'll be a spring in a sort of a basement of a house somewhere. It's quite clear.
Oh well.
Before we leave the shelter of this rock, perhaps Megan might be able to help us with sensing what's out there. I don't know the extent of her talent.
Can you sense water? That'd be a truly useful magic to use.
It might not be that useful.
Or deflecting sandstorms would be good as well.
I'm afraid that's a little outside of my skills.
Well, in that case, we'll do it the old-fashioned way and explore. Who knows? You could find a treasure there. You probably will find a treasure there.
How close are we to what looks like a building or a cave or something? Can we tell in this?
Yeah, is there like a...
It isn't
rock
far
house?
ahead. No, it starts to become a steeper and steeper climb, and you can see that whatever this settlement was, it was built into the very top of this this steep hill, and you are, yes, it's not a terrible climb up. It's just going to be uncomfortable for everybody going along.
We can cope with that. What's the biggest house we can see there?
There certainly is a large building with some kind of ruined, whether it was at the top of a chapel from a religious building or what it was for, don't know, but there was some kind of round-topped structure in the middle of the building, and you suspect that that's going to be the center of this this place, since the entirety of that
tower,
structure is much bigger than anything else around it. The
If
other
I was
structures
to
were much
put a
smaller.
well here, put it in my citadel. So we should check there first.
I suggest we all wrap what spare cloth we have around our faces and head out in the storm.
That does seem a very sensible
Indeed.
suggestion indeed. For those who are taller, obviously the wind and sand rips into you more than those who are shorter. So in fact, Acacia, who not only is naturally closer to the ground to begin with than others, and Celeste, but also has the chance to stand in the wind shadow of somebody else who's making the ascent, has an easier time of it than somebody like the Baron, who, for all his strength,
Nonsense.
is a large person, and when the wind rips into you, you really do feel it being something where you're straining all your muscles just to stand upright, and certainly there's an awful lot of sand blasting going on your skin.
Can't we all walk behind him?
Is somebody going to go behind him in the wind?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with people to shelter behind me. I press on.
Go ahead, folks. I'm going to ask for a vigor check, please.
I'm good. Okay.
Getting fatigued by the thing. It's not actually just the fatigue of physically making it up a steep hillside with slippery footing and dusty ground against a terrible storm, but it's also fatigue from just being buffeted by this sand so much that it kind of wears at you, quite literally and figuratively.
Acacia would have her eyes closed and kind of trying to shield Celeste's eyes a little.
and Vincent will certainly be helping you along and giving you instructions. He has to call them out quite loudly to you, even though he's standing next to you, holding, or you're holding his arm, because the wind kind of rips the words from your mouth as you come out of the shelter of these rocks and into the open terrain, just getting up to those first sets of ruins. And out of all of you, it has to be said that Celeste seems to have no problem whatsoever. She's quite happy to pounce along and has a natural instinct for keeping her face facing out of the wind, and even though the sand blasts across her body, don't worry about moving. She can also cover on small rocks along the way to some extent. The Baron and Gunn, you two do feel the worst of it, and certainly, whilst it's not going to have an in-game effect, you will be spitting sand out and wishing that you weren't there for some time to come. And, Acacia, you similarly, whilst you have the bonus of being in a wind shadow of somebody else smaller, also are in a position where by the time you get to further cover up the hill, you're feeling a little raw, wondering about this whole adventure business. None of you suffer from a physical fatigue effect, which is great to hear because you've got a bonus applied to Acacia's roll. But it's raw. It feels rough at the point when you arrive. Once you get into the low ruins of the first set of buildings, there is more opportunity for you to go from ruin to ruin, and to keep yourselves a little sheltered from what's going on, and get a little sense of the place around you. Anybody who wants to make a notice check is welcome to do so at -2. It may not make much sense for Acacia and Celeste. It'll be more huddling than anything else, and certainly Vincent is just concerned with you. But for those of an adventurous mind who wish to have a little look around where you actually are, go ahead and do so.
Nope.
Someone's at the wall at least.
Too much sand in the eyes.
Yeah, too much sand spitting out.
Hendrik, you would say calculatedly, as you get your first close-up look at these destroyed structures, that clearly they represent a time during the Pulse War, and they were ruined by the war or by time afterwards. They are very heavily weathered, but that doesn't mean that they are completely weathered. In fact, you're sure that the sands that you're walking on, if you dug down, you would actually find that there's quite a lot more under your feet, not just what you're seeing above the sand. Erosion may have worn them down, but also the sand, as the winds howl across, will have created sand drifts that are covering up, presumably, more structures beneath you. Also notice that large structure up ahead requires you to traverse a little along the slope, again through a bit of open ground. At least it is ridged and pockmarked, as if there may have been some ancient path up the side of the hill there once upon a time. Some of the dunes that have built up there will give a little cover, but there's more open terrain coming before you get to the Baron's destination, the large house on the old built hill.
Well, I'll save the revelation for of there's probably more beneath us until we're somewhere that people might actually be able to hear it. And just do my best to motion the Baron onwards in the direction of well, not necessarily least resistance, but best progress.
Okay.
So, Bahul, you are you're looking ahead, looking at the slope with a critical military eye to decide what's the best way forward. And in your own typical way, you have two choices. You can see Hendrik is motioning that if you take a path a little up the right-hand side out of this set of ruins, you enter more open terrain, but it's is an easier climb around the side of the hill and up. Or alternatively, there's just straight up the side of the hill through the open, straight to the front doors of the grand structure of the hill.
I have the Duchess with me. She's a civilian, so it's only polite to take the slightly easier route. And Hendrik, I'm sure, is a smart fellow, so I'll follow his advice.
Right. At this point, I will ask who's going to be leading on, who's following, and who's likely to be
I
lagging
will
in the rear.
lead. So I will stride forward, leading the group.
All right, who's going to follow behind?
I will happily follow behind.
Sure,
Excellent.
he's fairly used to this. This is a
Yes, my
Baron's
lieutenant
standard
behind
way
me.
of doing things.
Megan will probably try to be closer to Acacia, but hopefully not too far from the lead so she can take a bit of cover. So it depends a bit where the Duchess is. And Vincent, I guess, and Celeste.
Yeah, Acacia would stay with the group, but as Celeste looks around, she's more focused on the neat things that she's seeing rather than, actually paying attention to data.
Yes, the minute that, of course, the minute that Celeste gets into cover out of the wind and shakes off some of the sand from her fur, and then she's off and sniffing and getting a sense of what's where. And, you think she's found something, Hendrik, when you look across and see the panther digging furiously at the sand in the corner of one of these ruins, and then you realise that she's just using it as a litter box.
One could hope not, but
Well, when you've got to go, you go. But from there, it is indeed back out into the open. And although the Baron has chosen to take the route you've mentioned, Hendrik, and head along what may have once been an old path or road winding around the hill up to the top, you notice that he's got big strides and is having to keep himself in check a little bit so that the group of Acacia, Celeste, Vincent, and Megan are not left behind by the Baron and Al. Where do you put yourself in the group?
I might attempt to coordinate with, is it Vincent?
Mm-hmm.
Such that the young noble is encircled on two sides.
That seems very reasonable.
Whether he wants to bring up the rear and have the responsibility for catching her should things go astray, or lead the way for her, I'll leave to him. But
they are very used to her taking his arm and trusting to guide her.
Yeah.
Terrain, so it makes sense for that to continue. I expect that would give comfort to Acacia. But if by walking the other side, you can also maybe shield her from the storms as you re-enter the high wind zone, that I'm sure will be much appreciated.
Yeah, that'll be the general route that I'll take. So that
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Is there anything I can do to kind of soften the air against us with my elemental manipulation?
Well, yes, actually, I believe there is. If you do manipulation of the air, then you could create a counterwind that will effectively create a buffer, a shield, that will push some of the sand at least. It may not stop the wind itself very much, but certainly the particles in it, push those aside as a shield. For it's not a large amount of pulse to start it up, but it's going to take a couple of minutes for you to certainly cross this stretch of open ground to any next cover. So bear in mind any costs to maintain that counter wind, that barrier.
It says 1 point and 5 duration.
So that's 5 rounds, and it's every round is 6 seconds, so 5 rounds is 30 seconds. So it's going to cost you a
Okay.
point of pulse per 30 seconds. And as I say, certainly you will be doing a couple of minutes of walk in the very open. So that would cost you 4 pulse to maintain the barrier for that. But it would make everything much more comfortable for the.
Then that's a fair sacrifice.
All right. Spend the 4 pulse, and we make a faith check just to see how well you do with it. See, we always love those exploding dice. Wonderful. We can tell it's not the Wilderlands. Well, actually, we can tell that it's not Jim in the Wilderlands.
Or me in the Woodlands. That didn't go so well
Oh,
last week either.
True. Yes,
It's
you
the
have.
Wildlands in
I
general.
found it.
Yes, it is very sad the way that people get infected with bad dicedom. But in this case, McGann has come up trumps. Your faith is super strong, and with a prayer to Trinity. Would you care to come up with a small prayer to Trinity?
It's more of a song, I would say.
Ah,
And
sing
I
the
don't think you want me to
psalms.
song. I will spare your ears. You can imagine something beautiful instead.
Very well. Then the air starts to follow the other direction, and for those who've been getting buffeted, just as you're entering the open space and expecting to get sandblasted, in fact, there's a counter blast of equally warm air, but this time infused with the very spirit of the goddess Trinity. It's a very calming, soothing kind of warm that pushes against the wind just to the side of you and forces the sand particles, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, to get diverted around your group rather than slicing into your skin. So feels good. Those of you who are around McGann, that is to say, I believe you're with Acacia and that group there.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are there can hear McGann singing a simple village church song by breath as you walk. 2 minutes later, 4 pulse later, you have made it to what I mentioned, these low dunes, troughs in the ground along this path, giving you a little tiny bit of cover. And it is up to you, McGann, whether you want to continue for the other 2 minutes it'll take you to get to the next set of ruins, or whether you want to end the effect there.
Will there be more open space, or is
It's open, but not as open. There, you'll be able to. You folks will be moving from the sort of the side of one sand dune to another. It's still very unpleasant, but it's not quite as exposed as it was for that last bit.
I might as well continue?
All
You said
right,
minus
again,
2 more points,
it's about the same distance again.
so 4 again.
But when you put yourself into your shield of air, you notice to one side. Oh, actually, no. I should say this is not a given that you would notice something. So once again, those in a position to do notice, please notice. And I would say it's probably the same group of people rolling as did before.
So minus 2 again, or no penalty?
Nope, because you're maintaining
Ah,
looking into
okay.
your eyes, so everybody's not getting negatives to this.
Everything's fine. Keep going.
Oh, could we possibly put money on that?
Uh-oh, the infection has spread.
Could have been worse.
I'm impulsive. I don't care.
Baron, you spot that one of the dunes has a nice sharp edge in the from the lee of the wind, and decides to stride through to there.
It's bracing.
It's bracing, indeed. Completely oblivious to everything going on around behind you, because Al, you and McGann, and indeed Hendrik, all spot that just up ahead, beyond that dune, there are red lights flashing. In fact, a trio of red lights have started to flash, and they flash in rhythm with the flow of pulse through your song, Megan.
That's big. Well, I can't talk. I'm singing, so I won't say
Al,
anything.
you're a little further ahead with the Baron as he
Baron,
strides
stop!
forward.
Stop! I'll
Wait.
even grab the back of his coat.
What is it?
Flashing lights. Look over there. Don't go any further.
Oh, are we? The lights.
Al, being that little bit,
Curious.
being that little bit closer, Al, you and having an eye for detail, can see that that those lights are in fact starting to move the sand around them, and your thought processes switch to the idea of the way moles come out of the ground by digging their way out and popping out of mole holes.
Is this some sort of mechanism? I draw my
I think these
sword.
could be some kind of ancient device coming out of the sand.
Very curious. Where's our engineer? Monsieur Hendrik.
Coming up right behind you, as it turns out, together with the rest of the group, you find yourselves, Al and Bernard. You find yourselves back in the shelter of Megan's windshield.
I would try to, if I noticed that the lights were kind of matching my song, I would try changing my melody, see if they also react.
You change the pace and switch it up to a fine chorus. And indeed, not only does they change pace to go with your chorus, but also when you choose to make it a little bit more, little bit less under your breath and a little bit more out loud, then the lights themselves shine brighter when you do so. And the way in which you wield your magic, the power of prayer through Trinity, is indeed through your song. You're aware that the pulse flows with the rhythm of your music, but it seems like these lights absolutely are hooked into that rhythm too.
If I stop the magic and just sings, like dropping the buffer.
Are you all approaching the lights and going to where the Baron was suggesting, behind this large dune?
Well, he's leading, I'm following.
I
Well,
will
approaching, not necessarily going on top of.
stopping, drawing my weapon, and letting the spellcasters and engineers do their thing. We should be investigate, but be cautious.
All
ready,
right.
ready to smash it on the metallic noggin if it gets dangerous.
If therefore, Megan, if you wish to drop the spell at this point, then you may do so. Of course, that means that the wind will howl in across you with the sand as it was before, but it would at least allow you to experiment with what the lights do.
I would like that. I try to warn them. Maybe I can sing some words in my song and warn them that to brace themselves.
You probably
And
have
to
a couple of
watch
seconds.
Okay.
You probably have a couple of seconds after after you stop singing, before the magic fades, in which you can say, "Brace yourself, the wind's coming," or whatever.
Brace yourself. I want to see if they react when I'm only singing.
Okay.
As the song fades, over the same couple of seconds that it fades, and the buffeting wind is disperses, allowing the hot, dry air and all the sands to fly back at you all. Obviously, for a few seconds, you need to shelter your eyes, everybody, or else you will find yourselves in a great deal of pain. And after that, you can start to look up and shield your eyes and look across to where the red lights were. And indeed, it seems as if they have stopped pulsing, the red lights, and instead they have turned to a kind of a solid, dull glow. And sure enough, to the Baron's worst suspicions, And indeed, Al, in the back of your mind, that danger sense of yours is kicking in. That you named it quite rightly. There are large metal bodies hauling themselves out of the sand. They look like they've been buried there for well, decades, if not centuries. But these are certainly human size, adult human size, if not Baron size
How
structures.
many?
3 of them, one per light,
Okay.
hauling themselves out of the ground. In terms of how they look, picture a cylinder about the size of a human torso, out of which various appendages come out, so metallic arms with tools on them. Some of them looking quite spiky and vicious. It's clear that each of these entities has lost some of its bits and pieces over time. Others are rusted shut, but each of them still has a goodly selection of things going on in terms of whirring arms and pointy bits. They also float as they come out of the sand. You see that they don't have legs. They drag some cables a little way behind, so 2 or 3 foot long, out of the bottom of their cylinders, but they actually float to the ground when they stand at their full height, which is certainly the height of you, Baron.
Okay. Well, I'm weapon drawn, ready to engage them if they get closer.
This is where I think it is appropriate for us to switch to a battle.
I am not comforted by any of these things.
Yeah,
Nope.
battle is not appropriate.
I think battle is very appropriate.
The Baron is one of those people who indeed believes in every problem being a nail because he is the hammer. Now let me share this map here with all of you. Go.
Oh,
Shiny.
cool.
So here we have a series of dunes, and there are 3 critters coming out of the sand at you. You will be coming in from the top end of the map, where you can see there's a gap between 2 sets of dunes coming down the path, and each of you should be able to hopefully drag your portrait to the map.
Nope.
No.
I can move your characters, but I can't drag myself in.
I'll drag the portrait down.
Are they in the
Well-
combat tracker already?
That's a good.
There's
Not-
nothing in the combat tracker.
That's because. Yes, I guess. Leave that. Just a second here, folks.
I think that's the wrong Celeste.
It's a lion.
Yes.
All right, I think that's everybody. Don't have versions of everybody, I hope.
So question is how we
Oh,
were.
my word.
I can't see the Baron in there yet.
He should be there, just Bernard.
Oh, no, I see him.
Good.
We need Vincent.
Oh, we do. Listen,
Can we have 2 cells? Oh, can have 2 cells.
hopefully there aren't 2 versions of anybody.
You can drag many. Like, see, there's 2 lions. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't notice that Celeste token is different than her image.
Uh,
I'm not even sure how that happens.
I'm going to there. Should.
You're breaking up a bit.
I'm sorry about that. I don't know whether that made it any better or not.
I think so.
Can you folks see Vincent?
Yep.
Yes.
I think so, yes.
Wonderful.
Are we so far from each other? Shouldn't we be a bit closer?
I think you're actually that's fine.
Okay.
Each square in Savage Worlds, by default, unless somebody says otherwise, represents about 6 foot of space, so about 2 meters. And I think that as you've grouped up a little closer, heading in towards the red lights, that this all seems to make pretty good sense. Myself have done the foolish thing of closing the combat tracker. All right. Visible. There you go. Now,
It's,
hopefully all of you can see a combat tracker, who wish to have a combat tracker open at least, and each of you should see the whole party, including Vincent, and 3 defense drone. Is that how you
I
see
have
it?
Yes, I see them. Not drawn cards yet, I think.
Not yet, no. Go ahead.
Question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. There's ENC on mine. Is everyone has ENC on their own part?
Oh, you're incapacitated for some reason. You
Am I?
should be able to click that off on your character sheet on the traits
Oh.
tab.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, that you shouldn't be incapacitated. That indeed
Yet.
sounds bad. And Vincent is marked as hostile, which I really don't want either. There we go. He's now a friendly. Decidedly, given this is a combat tracker, it's clear that defense droids are not friendly, therefore marked in red, so that everybody knows that's the case. Now, given that we've got everybody there, let's do some cards for initiative, and hopefully good. Everybody now has a card. Show everybody in the. They should.
Okay.
Those defense droids are spry.
Thinking that, they drew well.
Trying
Whereas
figure
I
out
am
how
not.
I'm trying to
I-
figure how to take the combat tracker and arrange them in order of cards.
Oh, you see, it is automatically for mine.
It will automatically do. Excellent. Thank you, boyfriend. That's excellent. You're right. There is a particularly spry defense droid. I would actually say for the rest of them, they haven't exactly got the jump on you. It is really very much a middling group of cards. It's more the fact that you were a little slow to react as the wind blew in than they were particularly fast.
Yeah, thanks for pointing out that, it's not that they're great, it's just that we suck. That makes me feel better.
I was very careful to keep it in a positive light. It's the wind and sand suddenly pushing at you that slowed your reactions ever so slightly as you try and blink away the sand, shelter your eyes, and see what's going on. So
They'll be
gives them a
decayed
bit-
all-
I'll work on becoming a droid.
They won't do anything.
Resistance is futile.
I resist this. Brandis my sword.
All right. Defense Droid 2. We will have Defense Droid 2 being the one that is closest to you and just work their way further away, suggesting that it's the one that started to make the move.
You see the one with the natty scratch above one eye that looks a little bit like a raised eyebrow?
That is indeed the Defense Droid, yes. As opposed to
I haven't-
Defense Droid 1 that has the gash across the front of its cylinder that makes it look like it's got a gaping maw with sharp teeth.
Mm.
I have another question.
Yes.
Have we ever seen robots before, or droids?
Nothing quite like this.
Celestium
So we-
artifacts, clearly, but
So
And
we've
there's a
seen
very-
Sorry.
Yes, you have. I think the big difference is you've not seen them functioning previously. Generally speaking, when somebody finds a piece of technology from the Pulse War or earlier, then it's in terrible condition. I mean, these are in bad condition. They're banged up and they clearly have a lot of damage. But at some point, they got themselves buried in some kind of standby cycle, waiting for commands to wake them up. And the sands buried them, and that's actually preserved them from being completely destroyed in a harsh environment. And so often, Celestium artifacts are a case of you've got a load of metal and rust and a destroyed hunk of something, and as you hack into it very carefully, as Hendrik would point out, you find within that there may be some old Celestium that can be pulled out and then studied, possibly activated if you've got a power source for it. To actually see any of that technology working in the wild is a rare privilege, I'm sure, to Hendrik.
A rare privilege indeed.
So I could
This
Very
is
assume.
much
priceless.
So I can assume that I wouldn't know water and robot or metal might possibly be a bad combination.
You probably don't know that.
Okay.
There are people who are regular scientists rather than these crazy Celestium engineers who are beginning to experiment with automation and machines, and some electricity is being harnessed in the big cities for certain tasks. But picture the technology there as being at the very best around the year 1800, 1820. So it's more steam technology than electricity. It's for every crazy scientist who's starting to work on electricity based machines, really most automation is still being done by a water wheel or of steam power at best.
Okay. Thanks.
But there are certainly those Celestium engineers and for the Empire who have activated Celestium technology, or at least incorporated it into some of these steam devices to augment it. And whilst the common populace will generally step to one side carefully to make sure it doesn't blow up as it passes them by, it's obviously something that each of the empires is very, very keen, especially if they can get war machines made from Celestium, or even just plated in old Celestium that is non-functional anymore because it's such a strong material. All right. Droid 2, Eyebrow Droid, as he will forever be known from now on, starts to float towards you, uncaring about the sand and the wind whipping past at him, and as a result, gets to within a range where he can open fire. As a thing you weren't expecting, Baron, you are
Right.
you're there in front, standing tall and proud.
Oh.
You get shot at. A small hole appears in the front of the cylinder,
It's
just
14.
where the lights are based, and it ejects at very high speed a sliver of metal at you. Some of this, and it is at a range where that 7 on its shooting roll will indeed hit you.
Uh-uh.
How do I get it to? It's giant. One second whilst I damage dice. There, that's it. Good. Goodness!
Mm.
It hits you and it probably hurts. What's your toughness, Baron?
7.
All right. It will indeed wound you in that case.
Ha.
And you will take the shaken status effect and a wound, as this sliver of metal, not particularly small sliver of metal either. It's about 5 centimeters long, and about a centimeter across, made in a jagged pattern rather than any nice smooth bullet-like structure. And this sliver of metal flies out like a dart from a blowgun, and slams into your chest before you know what's happening. Digs in deep
Ow. Okay.
Now you wish you were more observant a few seconds before. Curses.
You don't double think things. You just deal with it.
Well, Defense Droid 1, as it is, the next one behind, is going to follow a very similar tactic. Defense Droid 1, she's the one with the gaping maw, also advance, and will similarly open fire. And guess what? Baron, you're the large target in the front.
I am.
Thus it is that that there will be flechette splitters firing at you. 5 in the absence of any adverse effects, and for the droids, the weather is not an adverse effect at this range. That will hit you.
Okay.
Will also ace
I'm
one of its
finding
dice.
quite tough.
All right, this doesn't cause a wound. However, because you are already shaken in the way the Savage
Yeah.
Worlds works, because you're already shaken, the second shaken result turns that into a wound. So, although this one doesn't dig deep, it certainly hurts hard, and it hits near the other wound in your chest, and therefore you do end up yourself a second wound out of that.
I stand proud. I'm probably going to be
You're coughing a little bit of
popping
blood.
shields soon. Yes.
The reason why you've taken 2 wounds, which bear in mind you can only take 3 before becoming stated on the 4th,
Yeah.
is because this second flechette landed so close to the first one that it's actually caused your lung to rupture, and you're coughing a little bit of blood now.
I'm not thinking about this. My lung has not ruptured. It will be fine.
Celeste.
Celeste would be waiting for a command, so she's going to go on hold.
On hold, yes, absolutely. Forgive me if you heard me slurping tea furiously. I'm losing my voice a little bit here. Al, you're watching as you stand next to Bernard and take on board what's going on. Your military endeavors, you know exactly what's happening as he staggers backwards, not once but twice.
Is there any way to fight these? By that I mean, do they look like they have vulnerabilities that he might be able to do something with a sword or a? I mean,
Well,
if
you
he
know it-
rushed one and used it to shelter him from the second and third whilst trying to tangle it up, is this feasible kind of?
Imagine them having the same kind of mass as the Baron. So in terms of manhandling them, you've got to be thinking, okay, if I'm moving the Baron around, that's kind of the mass you want to be moving. But it looks like the main torso of them is made of metal, and so you don't know how thick the metal is. It's all clearly very rusted and encrusted. But you could possibly shoot through it or to something vulnerable underneath. You're not a great expert on this kind of artifact out in the field, but of course you have experience of Celestian machines functioning and otherwise that most people be quite surprised at, being who you are. So yes, you're aware that there may be vulnerable points beneath, and just from your thoughts, you're aware that top section where there is an array of lights and other what look like some kind of controls may well be where it has its main sensors, how it sees the world. So if you could aim for those, it's not a particularly large area, but as an aimed shot or as an aimed attack with a melee weapon, you could maybe blind them or even penetrate through to their machine brain if that's behind there.
What kind of movement would he have in a turn? Could he get there to try and entangle it up and stop it from just keep shooting?
You have a pace of 6, I assume, because that's standard human. You have a quick trial. Yes, there's no reason why you wouldn't have a pace of 6. And you can choose to turn that into a run action to get extra squares. If you just move up to 6 squares, then you would be able to act on top of that. If you choose to run, then that counts as an action, but you'll get extra. You get to roll your run die to get extra squares on top, and then any action you do would get a double action penalty.
So he
Does that-
can just about get to the first one without losing an action.
Yeah, he actually can get next to it, which is exactly where you want to be, because that's in melee if you wish. In grappling range if you want to grapple. But you do also have a pistol, don't you?
Are these things one shot?
They
and then
are,
you have
well,
to
they
use the sword.
they
Like
take
pistols
3
are,
rounds to
yeah.
they take 3 rounds to reload, being matchlock weapons. So you would fire it, drop it, switch to sword. Is the traditional way that musketeers deal with it anyway. So that's up to you as to whether you want to take a shot first before and just maneuver initially, or whether you feel it's better to charge it now and to maybe pull a pistol out and take a short range shot a little later on.
I think given the state of the Baron, he needs to get out there and distract it physically, and then he can always pull the pistol out later if some of the other.
All right, go ahead and move yourself to be next to the first of those droids, our eyebrow droid. And are you going to use your sword to have an attack at it? Or do you like to be doing a grappling type of thing with it? How would you like to play that?
I guess given that it's made of metal, he's going to have to use something like the sword to try and pummel what he thinks are the flashy, sensitive bits at the top.
All right, well, then in that case, that's very simple. What you're going to do is you're going to roll your fighting die in chat, and you will be going for a cold shot to the face, effectively, of this thing. Makes it a -4 to hit, but it's automatically a +4 damage. Plus, there may be other bonuses which you don't know about based on the type of critter it is.
Okay, I didn't put anything on this automatically in, but he got
No,
an
no,
11, so -4.
Okay. So here's my thing. I'm experimenting this time around. You'll notice with not using the automation in the combat. I'm saying just roll things in chat, and then we'll manually, as human beings, will add and remove modifiers rather than trying to get Fantasy Grounds to automate for us. So it's absolutely fine. You rolled an 11. We know that there's a -4 comes off that because of the because you're doing a cold shot, which is still a 7, just short of hitting with a raise, but it's still a very good hit. So you have indeed hit it in its sensors part. I was going to say in its sensitive parts, but that too, I guess. And you then roll your damage from your weapon, which is the easiest way to find that is just to go to the combat tab on your character sheet, and you don't actually have the damage marked in for a flintlock pistol and a rapier.
I'm on the mini sheet, which is not giving me information. So
No,
let me
you
try
don't.
and
You
see if
don't.
I-
I'm looking on your full sheet. A rapier is, I believe, strength plus d6 damage. So you would roll both your strength die and another d6 on top. Remember, they can ace. What's your strength? So your damage is a 4 plus the 4 for
That's
hitting a cool
pathetic.
shot, which is not great. No, you can use karma and let the powers that be
I
of the
will
universe
do.
say, no, Al's more of a
Yeah.
hero.
Can you
Remember
use
your
power to reroll
card.
damage?
Come to
I'm
reroll
sorry.
damage, yes.
You are allowed to in this edition. You are. You couldn't previously, but you can in this edition.
Remember your card if it's any good.
There's that too.
The what? Sorry,
Your
card,
card.
your nature card.
that's only good for people with pulse powers.
Ah.
Okay.
Oh, too bad.
Al, do you
How do I
happen to
get
know if you
2d6 without having to roll the same thing twice?
just pick up a d6 and whilst you're holding your left mouse button down, just right click once and it'll add a second d6.
Magic.
It is magic,
Ooh.
isn't it? No, that's
Exactly
much
the
better.
same.
Whoa!
Hendrik!
What are you doing? Oh, like
All
that.
right,
Oh no, it's 12
Okay.
instead of.
that's a lot of. That's
I
still
I
like
can't
Still
put
hate
it
that.
down. Oh shit. I don't want to
All
roll.
right,
How do you
folks.
stop it? How do you stop it from not? I don't want to roll this.
Just take it away from the chat window and let it roll on the desktop.
Yeah.
I can't.
Don't roll it on the chat. And that's
Ah,
it'll be fine.
okay.
So yes, you did a damage of 12. The toughness for the drone is 6. So you deal a shaken result for getting to 6, and then for every 4 after that it becomes a wound. So the 10 gives you a wound and shaken. 12 doesn't get you to a second wound, but it does wound the droid and mark it as shaken. The droid clearly has a rapier through its face, and poor rusted eyebrow droid staggers backwards, and you can see that whatever is keeping it floating above the sand is sputtering and struggling to keep it aloft anymore. You withdraw your rapier. You can hear the grinding where it had slid into some very hard substances, which you suspect is celestium rather than just rusty iron. So you think there is celestium inside as you pull the sword back out. That is the end of your action there.
So it took a wound and it's still going strong.
It took a wound, and I'm not sure that going strong is the word you are looking for. But at this
Well,
moment in
it's still
time,
going.
it is clear that that it is struggling with its existence.
Okay.
Okay.
Megan moves hurriedly towards the Baron and puts a hand on his shoulder. Tells him, "Sing with me, Baron d'Arbre," and she sings a soft song to Enu's healing.
Excellent.
Oui.
Ah, childhood lullabies that you loved when you were little one. You don't know whether it's the fact that you're coughing up blood, or whether it's the magic of McGann's singing, but you're taken right back to being a little one. Memories you didn't even remember you had before. Nanny would sing soothing
Arbors
songs.
never give up.
So that's a fate, I assume.
That is indeed a faith roll, yes. And you are looking for a nice high roll there because it's the extra successes that give you extra healing.
Yes.
Your
Okay,
healing
so-
roll was a success, and you have a raise to it. Therefore, 2 wounds can be healed. Don't forget to keep track of piles, though, because I'm aware that McGann can eat through piles quite quickly.
That's impressive.
By the way, before that, there was the first air spell was 4. Then was it 2 or 4?
Just the one afterwards, because you got interrupted. You
So that was
chose to
5
drop it.
total for.
5 before, and whatever the healing has
Okay.
cost you.
Excellent.
And
thank you.
indeed, Baron, with the power of Trinity, you take a breath, expecting it to be a
Painful.
late breath with a mixture of blood and air reaching your body, and instead it is a warm breath straight with Trinity's blessing, healing up the inside of your lung as it fills you with lovely fresh oxygen to act.
Yes, feel the
Be the
power
Baron.
shifting within me from defense to attack.
Julie, would you care to advance the combat tracker to the next person,
Oh,
please?
so sorry.
That's fine. That's only at the end of your action, of course. That's as it should be. Vincent, seeing the danger of these devices, immediately shields you, Acacia, and tries to usher you tight into one of these dunes where you might be out of view of the danger. Will you allow him to move you across a slight bit?
Yeah, she gives a glare, but she allows it.
All right. All you need to do is to move yourself and Vincent one to the right, so that you're roughly where he was, and he's one more into the dune.
Like that.
Just have him straight up. Just have him above. Actually, in the dune is fine. We know there's a dune there. Excellent.
Okay, there.
And for the second half of what he's going to do, he turns to Celeste and says, "Go, protect her. Be the cat you are, the panther." And that's the end of his action. He is shielding you. All right, Acacia, however, you can do what you like.
Okay, Acacia commands Celeste to attack, and then that's all she's doing for.
And therefore, we go back to Celeste's on hold action. Now Celeste can do what Celeste does.
Okay, so Celeste is gonna have to do a double action because she needs to run to get.
Does she have a pace of 6 or 8?
She has a pace of 8,
Are
but
you
somehow
sure she needs to run? Remember, she can bound across these dunes. They're not particularly high, so she could just go directly.
yeah, because 8 takes her right to, but it takes her
It
right
depends
up
on
to
whether
it.
you
So
want
you're right.
us to run past Al and the one that he's fighting and run to the second one, in which case a run is required.
No, she's gonna be pouncing on the first one.
On the first one. Okay, in that case, you're right. She doesn't need to run. She doesn't need a double action for that. Yep, that's fine. She could.
Okay, so she
Panthers are fast.
is.
Celestium infused panthers, particularly fast.
That did not add her wild attack, so that should be a 6.
That indeed should be a 6, and they have a parry of 6. Therefore, the pounce indeed lands.
And that should be a +2 damage as well.
Because of the wild attack. Well, that takes it to 10, and again on a toughness of 6. That means you do indeed score another wound on this beleaguered droid. Al, just as your sword comes sliding out of the front of this abomination, Celestium Panther comes bounding up the side and slams into the side of the tin can, bringing it straight down to the ground where it was struggling to keep aloft. It's now definitely been brought down to the ground. Here, the metal crunching and the rust giving way as Celeste tears into it. And you can see that whilst it's still juddering around a little bit, there's clearly no light on at all. This droid.
And the last thing Acacia is going to do is tell Vincent that she needs to move up to use magic, and she realizes that he doesn't want her in danger, so she hesitates to actually.
All right, well, we'll have that next round. Nicely done. Go ahead and move on to.
Okay, I'm still technically shaken, so I need to roll for that. So success and shaken, so I can act.
Yes.
Far away is the other droid, which is still moving. Can I charge it down?
Again, you have a pace of 6, so you can move 6 squares across. If you want to charge further than that,
Oh,
then
yes.
you just need to roll your pace die, and it is an action. It doesn't mean you can't take a second action, but it'll just be at -2.
Second
so you
action
can-
then. What's a pace die? D agility or
It's a D6.
D6? Okay, it's easy.
Well, at least I think it is for Bernard. Hold on a second, Bernard. Yes,
Probably
it is.
will be. Okay, let's try a D6 for pace. That's
So you
enough.
can move 10 squares. No problem. You easily reach the second droid.
Charging it down like a dog it is. Sword at the ready. So slicing it down, and I'm using pulse to become an unstoppable force. I have no idea what I spend for that.
Leave. It is 3 pulse to effectively transform into your inertial form as you run. It is an automatic action, however, that means you don't have to do any rolls to make it happen. Part of your race, it's who you are. And for everybody watching, as the Baron charges forward with a battle roar, his lungs freshly invigorated to make a battle roar, and that his body shines with a blue light, and a pattern appears over him. He speeds along, like an ancient Greek vase with a mosaic of a maze on it, and shining with this blue light, you slam into the droid, or take an attack, or whatever you wish to do when you get there.
Excellent. Take an attack, -2. Let's roll the dice. Fucking hell.
No.
You are singularly the most entertaining dice roller
Definitely
I've
infected.
met in a long
Oh
time.
yes, I shot. I don't even bother hitting it. I just smash straight into it.
I just healed you. Come on.
Yeah, I try and run through it.
These droids are not
That just
particularly
needs a space for more
nimble,
wounds.
though they have proven that they have algorithms in that allow them to dodge incoming threats very well, and so it sidesteps you as you're coming forward, and you flail a little bit in
Cheating!
the wind. And I will move you your full distance. 1, 6, 7, 8. So you've got to move 2 more squares straight past it, and you're facing the wrong way.
Yeah,
By the time you get to swipe and have an attack, you realise you've actually gone straight past it, and you could not stop your momentum.
makes sense. I'm an unstoppable force.
A little too unstoppable in this instance.
Slam my feet into the sand and look around. But that's next turn.
That's next. That's indeed. That's next round. All right, advance the combat tracker. The final one of the droids is within its AI limits. Pleased to see that it doesn't need to move forward in order to get a good shot at you. You've actually come to it, and indeed will then just happily fire at you to see if it can reopen the wound.
I'm glad I have a vigor of D8.
Oh my goodness! How do I? Let's see. Take chat window and it so that you guys can see it. It tells me that you can't, but I really wanted you to see that. Nope, no idea. Okay, well, he rolled a 19.
Okay.
Uh,
Is it wasn't from damage?
on the plus side, that can't. There's a limit as to how many raises you can get. There's just the one, so he's simply going to roll a raise on damage. So,
He rolls snake eyes, of course he will.
of course he will. Absolutely no. Actually, he's just acing die after die after die. Wow,
Okay.
that's 35 damage
Ow.
from this shard of metal that flies in. He hits the exact spot he wants to as you plant your feet and stop yourself to turn around. Does somebody want to do the maths for me? How many wounds are we talking about here? Your toughness is...
My toughness is 7, I believe. Toughness 7, yeah.
Yes.
That's like just 6 wounds
All of them then.
ish.
7, I believe.
Because the first 4 don't actually wound you.
Oh, right.
No,
Even
it is
doesn't.
it's 6
Yeah,
wounds.
6.
Yeah, 6 wounds and shaken. Baron, this is a wonderful time to be spending the karma that the universe owes you to try and remove some of those wounds.
How do I do that?
It's a soak roll, which means you are rolling vigor. Luckily,
Okay,
you have a good vigor.
I do.
You spend a point of karma. Just drag it onto the chat window to say it's gone.
Then the cover.
Roll vigor.
I don't know if I have to do this before or after, so I'm going to do it right now.
All right.
Wow, well, that was just balls, wasn't it?
4 is not that good, so I probably want to roll Karma again to get a better dice roll.
But you will get if Hendrik is using his card to aid you, then that's it. You will whatever you choose to finish up with, add another 5 to it.
Okay, well, I'm on one with a raise with the
That-
Divine Focus.
That was a D20 incidentally.
I know. I'm going to burn another Karma and see if I can get a better
No, it's
roll.
fine.
Hang on.
At
Yeah.
the moment,
Wait.
at the moment, you do not have 3 wounds. At the moment, you are unwounded. No, you have 1 wound. Is that right?
He
I
has
just
no
hit-
wound before he went in.
You got rid of both.
Yeah, so I've got
Yeah.
a 4, so I've got 1 and a raise currently.
Currently,
No,
yes. That's so you would soak 2. Now you
I-
need to soak 3.
I know.
Or you will be
More-
incapacitated.
More Karma.
But not dead.
No, but still not having a good time with it.
Not
You're
No,
on
no.
8 hit.
and there will be a roll on the injury table that could still kill it.
That's not going to do it. One more.
Possible.
That's
Better.
better. That's better. That's 15.
Natural one.
16. So 16. You will soak 16 soaks 3 wounds, am I right?
Yeah, I think so.
4.
4 is it?
Yeah, 1 for the success, and then 1 for each race.
Oh, 16 does, yeah, no, you're right. I'm
Ooh.
thinking 15,
Woohoo.
it's what Jim
Nice.
said a minute ago.
So I'm on 2
Right, 16,
wounds, but I'm still going. Okay, good.
Okay, so although it was costly, and you will want to say a quick
Yeah,
prayer of
I did,
thanks
yeah.
to Trinity in due course, you are only in a position with 2 wounds.
It goes straight out the other side, and I'm
Yes, I
not
think
quite
the
sure how I'm
mission
still moving.
is that the metal shard flies into your body exactly where you were previously wounded, and before it's healed up properly from the prayer that was said, and punches clean through your shoulder out the back, meaning that it doesn't actually do as much damage as it otherwise would do. But hey,
Exactly.
you taste blood in your mouth as you're breathing again now. Ah, familiar territory.
Yeah.
And that would be Defense Drone 3. Happy with its with its job done. Hendrik. Tell us what you
I mean, I'm not sure how one follows that much drama.
Shoot them!
I suspect something dangerously familiar, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and fight defensively while gesturing threateningly with a nightstick at drone number 3, who we shall call Fat Bottom Drone.
Fat-bottomed drone, indeed, where the rust has accumulated quite savagely over the years.
Is that what makes the rocking untamed
Rocking
empires
drones
go
go
round?
round, yeah.
Yes,
It probably
indeed.
will if it gets anywhere near Hendrik, which is slightly worrying, but, well, defensive fighting for the win. It might help.
Are you going to attempt to taunt to try and convince it to focus on you?
Hell no, it's just I'm moving there, so I'm a visible target and fighting defensively.
All right, fair enough. At which point, go ahead and advance the tracker.
Oh, yeah, the thing that I always forget to do. I do apologize. Ding.
Advance the rounds, no less. At this point, I will take a quick break. Everybody's liquid out, liquid in. We like to do a traditional break for a couple of minutes.
Yes,
Go
so I
ahead,
think
go
so.
ahead.
I need some tea.
And
You need more than
move into round 2 of the combat to discover whether or not the Baron Bernard de Labre is indeed going to be the pincushion of choice for round 2. I begin with Celeste. Actually, Celeste's marked as being on hold still. Should not be.
I think you can just deal her a new card. Yeah.
There you go. Not bad for her. However, our first defense drone is the one that is just in front of the Baron as he swept majestically past it into the path of a large shard of metal. Our first defense drone drew a Joker, which means that there's an extra point of karma for the villains in this encounter. Not that I felt the need to use any of them as the Baron provides all the comedy dice rolls already. Drone 2, or sorry, it isn't drone 2. It's defense drone 1. Sees you go past Baron, and as you go past, it daintily just swivels on its axis and fires up some of these sharp tools. There's a little rotating saw and something that looks like a nasty drill bit that it comes at you with and attacks you as you're planting your feet, getting shot in the chest, expecting to shred you as best as it can. Roll a Whirling Blades attack against your parry of 6. You throw your hands out to try and stop it, but it gets an 11. Offren, can you tell me, how do I let everybody in the group see the dice rolls that I'm doing as GM?
That would be an option in the, if you go into your options, upper right-hand corner.
Yes,
should
absolutely.
say make GM rolls visible.
GM rolls. There we go, folks. All right, that will presumably only affect things in the future, but at least you folks can see what I'm rolling as well as I can.
You can go ahead and give a test roll on something. Roll a table die.
Well, I'm about to roll damage.
Oh, that'll work.
So that's that. It is a hit with a raise. All the damage, extra d6.
See them.
Giving it an 11 against your toughness. I'm glad that was visible. Excellent. Against your toughness of 7, meaning that you will now, you are already shaken. So that shaken will be converted to a wound, and you will take an extra wound from the raise.
That's 4. So I need to spend an adventure card to get a karma to.
You do, I fear.
I can take the karma from the bad guys, I would hope, as they're getting karma.
Excellent. Go ahead and use the point of karma and fire it off.
So I think karma's all spent, but you can assume I've got one, so let's see what I can get on the soak.
At least one soak would be great. Okay, that is indeed enough to soak one of the wounds.
Something.
And you only take one wound as it slices into your into the back of your shoulder, where the metal shards just punched out. And the drill bit punches in from the other side, and you feel it in your shoulder blade.
You're all thinking about shields. Shields are good. That's what Mother always said. Shields above force.
You should have listened to Mother on the battlefield.
Yes.
Ow! The rest of you who are looking on can see the Baron over a period of seconds getting himself into all sorts of trouble. He's gone from trouble to trouble, and Megan, you can't help but feel that there are limits as to how much you can help somebody who has barely been healed by the goddess's ministrations and then dives straight into the fight again. However, it is Hendrik, your ace,
Really? Okay. Well, it sounds like the Baron might actually be in need of some help, which doesn't sound like normally the sort of thing that I would be doing for him. But well, strange weather makes for strange bedfellows.
Well, there's also the computational brain that obviously Hendrik is using to great advantage. He's thinking in hyperspeed here because that's where his ace comes from. Also, laterally thinks if we lose a very large combator ready person, then how much harder is it for the rest of us to survive and make it down the hillside?
To wit, Hendrik will reposition himself such that he is in some sort of a flanking position with the droid. He shall whip out his nightstick en route, and he shall use it to deliver several strikes to the droid in a variety of positions around what I'm hoping are its sensory organs and or warning damage spots. None of them particularly damaging in and of themselves. It's more just poking in a you should pay attention kind of a fashion. So I'm hoping here to do a smarts trick against it and put it on a status that gives it -2 to things and stuff. I can't remember
Vulnerability
which
is what
one
you're
that
looking
is.
for there. Yes.
Yeah. It was vulnerable or the other one, and I can't remember either name, and I can't remember what they do. But that
It's whether you want it to be easier.
I want
for
it at
other people to attack.
-2s rather than people to be at +2s against it.
Okay, so it's not vulnerable. It is the other effect, and I can't remember what that's called. I also can't remember how to get to the effects table. It's a little bit embarrassing for me.
But any which way, it still requires me to make a smarts check against it, assuming that
does.
you're au fait with that.
I'm absolutely for it. If you intend to use your nightstick to play this tin can like it's a Jamaican drum, then go for it.
I wasn't implying any sort of rhythm. There's someone else in the party that's much better at that sort of shenanigans than I am. But yes, there we go. Distracted. Yes, thank you very much.
Lovely. Well said.
And it seems fitting as well.
If you click on the little man in the upper right, that's the effects table.
Oh, I think I just did the wrong little man.
So
there you go. I want to add.
I will be
distracted
attempting that against that guy. Oh, I can't do that.
And that's his defense drone 1. There he is. He is now distracted. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Clyde.
Yeah, he should, I presume, have made a smarts check versus my roll.
That's a good point. He probably should have, except for the fact that he already isn't looking in your direction, so I'm giving you surprise on that one.
All right, I will not argue the point.
He's absolutely swiveled his body around and is using his computational power, to rusty as it is, to stick a drill bit into a little fleshy hole in the back of somebody who's just run past him. I think that counts as being suitably unaware as you decide to use him as a set of bongos.
Works for me.
He is now suitably distracted and confused, however, as to what on earth you're doing behind him.
I get that a lot.
We'll move swiftly on to the next character, shall we? Can you dance the combat tracker? Please.
I could, but
Vincent. Vincent considers for a second and grits his teeth and then goes, All right, Duchess, let's go. And will raise himself to his feet where he was lying against the dunes and hold his hand out to lift you up and escort you across to where you want to go. So he's effectively on hold, but really all he's doing is supporting you in your action. And his support will be simply to help you cross the dunes as best he can, which is kind of an athletics-y thing. Doesn't make your life really much easier, but still, it's nice to see him getting out of your way at least.
Okay.
Celeste, chewing currently on a rusty bit of tin can.
Celeste is going to try to save the Baron.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Pounces across to the next droid in line to add another chew toy to her collection.
And that should be a 7.
That should be a 7 because you're using your usual wild attacks, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Exactly.
Well, the droids only have a parry of 6, so it is a success.
Okay,
Wow.
that's 25 damage.
That's a lot of pouncing damage. Okay, since I'm not using my my pile of karma for villains on the dark powers, I might as well throw a point in there, and we'll have the droids soak some of that. Well, possibly soak some of that. That's not really soaking much of anything, is it? Therefore, burn a second point. I have 2 left, so I will give it a second go. Now, okay, it has mitigated a little bit of the damage. However, given the amount of damage caused by Celeste as she slams in, taking advantage of the distraction caused by Hendrik and his largely tuneless rendition of Old Kingston Town, the thing gets dragged down to the ground under the weight of the Celestian Panther, and you sense that its lights fade as it slams back into the sand. Baron, there's a drill bit that was being drilled into your shoulder that gets rudely yanked back out of the back of your body.
That's a relief. Ish.
And you can't help but give out a little bit of a grunt and some unladylike language as you spit blood out of your mouth. Control the pain. You get to move Celeste on to Acacia, and Acacia can now do her action.
Yeah, so I will move Venta and Acacia forward. And Acacia is going to throw havoc around whatever one that back one is.
Mm-hmm. Remind everybody what that does, including me.
It causes them to be distracted. Basically, it's going to be a horrible whirling sand, which is probably a bad idea, but she's going to do it anyway.
So you create a swirling tornado of sand around this droid, forcing it to spin uncontrollably, hopefully. But go ahead, therefore. You've done your faith roll. No raise. So is that a just distracted status on it, or?
Yeah, so it's distracted.
All right. Excellent. Go ahead. And presumably anybody else who enters that area will similarly suffer the effects. Excellent. You notice the loss of pulse as you spend you invest in the faith of Trinity to cast the power, and move on to Alarin. All right, Monsieur Lecuyer. What's it going to be?
Seeing the raging tornado of sand up ahead, he will take a few paces forward and then on the edge of the sand try and pull his pistol and shoot at the lights on top of this creature in this.
Absolutely. The walking forward is within your regular pace, therefore it's not actually an action, so you still get to take a full, and indeed drawing a weapon is not considered an action under Swade, so you are allowed to go ahead and have a shot at no penalty there at short range, which is lovely. That is a 5. No, your shooting rolls always have a target number of 4. For the most part, have a target number of 4. Therefore, that is a hit. No raise, but a hit.
So is the damage 2d6?
It is 2d6. Okay, it is a 7 against a toughness of 6, so you have shaken it.
Better than nothing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shaken is always the first stage. No, that's incapacitated. There you go, shaken. It is shaken. Excellent. And go ahead and advance the tracker. You now used your shot. It would take 3 full rounds, 18 seconds for you to reload a black powder weapon like that. So you probably want to drop it after this. Defense drone 3 will attempt to unshake. Which is its vigor. Oh, all right. It automatically did it for me. Well, that was nice of it. It will need to therefore use a point of my villain's karma from the dark side to unshake, which it will do, given it's the last standing droid. It might as well have an action. I'm left with 1 karma only, and
Is that including the 1 extra comm you should have from me?
yes. Oh no, because you give a point of karma to the villain as well. Ah, yes. In that case, it has 2 left.
Well,
Potentially.
make
Thank you
it
for
1 to
the reminder.
GM.
Yeah, no, that is fair. Well, yes. In this case, the GM and the critter are the same, since there's only one critter left. It will spin forwards. Its calculations very quickly tell it that it knows where it's going. And as it tries to get control of its trajectory, it will use its own collection of strange arms and rusty bits to lash out at you, Baron, from the other side, just as you're spinning yourself around to deal with the one behind you.
Great.
You feel a little bit like you're in a wrestling match where you're against 2 opponents rather than 1 at all times.
Mm,
And indeed, they're not playing fair because they're using rusty weapons against you when you're barehanded. But
very unsporting.
it will, however, get a -2 to all its actions because it was distracted, even though it's left the zone. So it will attack. And fail to hit.
Thank Trinity.
Is a little fortunate. Magan.
Would I notice that Endrick is a little tired?
Well, you would see that Hendrik has clearly been taking the buffeting by the wind a little bit heavier than most, and is struggling a little under the conditions.
Since I can't reach the Baron, I have 2 choices. I think I'll go with relieving Henrik of his fatigue.
Very good. Go ahead and do so. Again, a soft calming song will indeed clear his fatigue.
That means additional recipient. The power may affect more than 1 target for 1 additional power point each, but he's the only one fatigued, right?
He's the only one who's currently fatigued, yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
It's going to be you, Baron. You are currently shaken, though. So,
Try and get that.
Magan, would you care to advance the combat tracker?
Alan, remember to remove your fatigue.
Oh, don't mind if I do.
That's what I just did.
Your shaken status is removed there, and you are able to act, Baron.
Woo!
Your fate is in your own hands, quite literally, as you ball them into a fist.
I'm gonna hit it, aren't I? I'm not gonna do shields. I'm gonna just hit it.
How many wounds can he take before he's...
One more
He's
and I'm
at his
down.
limit at the moment. One more
Let's-
wound will incapacitate him.
Come on, let's get it raised,
Get your
guys.
sword into play here. Let's see the Baron show what he can do.
No, I'm too badly wounded, and there's no more karma to spend.
And even if there were, surely you wouldn't use it on the attack, right?
Probably the damage.
You probably would, because you know it's the Baron after all. Okay, that didn't work the way you wanted, but at least you are hopefully distracting it with your weakened sword blows enough that that other people can come and finish things
Exactly
off.
not.
After all, do you not always say that that a regiment is not just one man?
Indeed.
We'll move on to the next round. Oh, Vincent. This is the point where he pats you gently on the arm, Acacia, and says, "One moment." Draws his own sword and steps forward. He's not the world's finest combatant, but still a little bit of skill with a blade. A very little bit of skill with a blade. He's
Yes.
not used to this. He's more an administrator. And at his age, he should have probably stayed behind the desk. But at least he was trying, which was nice. Baron.
Looking for that raise. I strike the thing down. I'm using pulse for. I've just got to cleave it in twain, basically. So unstoppable force. Oh, crackers! No.
You and Vincent both, unfortunately, flailing blades, but not actually hitting.
My money's on Celeste. She's the effective one here.
It is working out that way. But Hendrik, you're a smart chap. Bernard, would you care to advance the combat tracker?
A smart chap I may be, but defense droids, well, they're clearly not infallible. Let's flail at one. Not violently, just flail.
Now we'll point out that there are things like gang up bonuses here. It didn't affect either the Baron or
Yeah.
Vincent, given it's only a +1, but now it's a +2 gang up bonus where you're attacking it from behind. So this may make a bigger effect on your night clubbing, night sticking.
Well, let's roll that out there, which is great, but we should apply it to this guy. Okay, I have to drag it to him on the combat tracker.
Or I wouldn't go automating anything.
Yes.
Just roll the damage.
Defense droid 3. There we go. Oh god. Well, that's opened a console that I didn't expect.
I would say
Okay.
just roll your damage dice to the combat to the chat. This is what
Yeah, we hit him with a raise. That's fair, right?
exactly. I think we know that's the case because he only had a parry of 6.
Light melee club. Was it? It was with the raise, wasn't it? So I'll have to add a d6 onto this.
Well,
So you
Yeah.
say this club's ineffective? You smash his head off.
you have an extra d6 to roll, don't you? On top of that.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. So
Against the toughness of 6. Oh, that's 2 wounds.
loads.
Which is
And
enough.
he's shaken too, so that's more.
And just where to hit, basically.
Was he shaken previous to this?
Wouldn't
It
make
says
any
shaken in the-
difference unless it's changed in this edition.
No. I thought when you're shaken, you take an extra wound. That's what happened to the Baron, wasn't it?
So
Oh,
yeah.
I may have misspoken that, because what happens is that if you are shaken and you are shaken again, that turns into a wound. If,
Ah.
however, you
But if
take
you-
extra wounds, then the fact that you would be shaken doesn't count as an extra wound out of that.
Okay.
So hopefully I didn't misspeak that. Yes, because you're already taking wounds. So, as an example, imagine that the defender has a toughness of 6. If you roll a damage roll of 10, then that would make the person shaken and give them a wound. If they were already shaken, it doesn't count as a second shaken result because there's already a wound coming in. If, however, the person had rolled a 9, so didn't get the wound, it was just a second shaken, then that does convert both those shakens into a wound.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a It's a little
Only
bit of a
if
tricky
the
one there.
second shaken is from a damaging source. So, for example, you can't do a smarts trick and shake someone because you got a raise, and then do another smarts trick and shake them and actually wound them because you got a raise. Like you can't throw sand in someone's eyes twice and inflict a wound.
Yes. Yeah. It's one of those where it becomes clear as more and more it happens. Describing it is actually not that easy.
I would say this sounds like a great time for a GM call for the moment, and then just continue on with play.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
it's a
happy
couple of
to.
wounds any which way, so it doesn't make that
It doesn't
much.
affect what we've got going on here in this case,
It's
because
just a player clarity thing, isn't it?
yeah, it's a good case of explaining it, or hoping to explain it in some way that understood by the person asking the question, which is a valid question because it's not impossible that when I was doing damage calculation previously with the Baron, there was so much damage being flung around that that I miscalculated and accidentally converted a shake into a wound when I shouldn't have, because there was damage on that. Anyway, back to the story in hand. Hendrik, the hero of the hour. You
Seems unlikely.
slide round the back of this mechanical monstrosity just as it's looking to close its rusty pincers around the poor Baron, and you thwack it hard on the back of its torso. And it turns out that you hit a patch of rust that allows your nightstick to just cleave straight into its main chassis. And as the metal caves in, see the whole thing judders and steams a little bit out of the back, and then falls to the ground right at the feet of the Baron.
Merci, monsieur.
And with that, we end the combat. Head back to the regular. Back to the regular game. We are at the end, however, of our session, which means that with a smoking set of droids on the side of a hill, with a sandstorm blowing past at high speed, Baron bleeding profusely despite poor Megan's best efforts, we will pause there and continue next time. Bear in mind that the Baron is within what's called the golden hour, therefore there can be healing post-combat. That is still a thing that can happen if there's enough pulse to make it happen. But maybe that's where we kick off at the beginning of next session. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Before we go, if we're going to redo cards, I will fling my pulse power cost one less at McGann's healing power, so she doesn't drain herself too.
So she gets some pulse back.
She gets -1 when she uses her heal powers. It's not going to cost. It's going to cost her 1 less.
Excellent. That's good
Great.
because she has been using a healing. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I would like to say, well done. Look how competent you all are.
I would sack my dice if I could, but virtual dice just can't be destroyed with a hammer.
But you don't pay them anyway, so they're just going to carry on doing it to you. All right.
It'll come good eventually.
Thank you very much, everybody. I am going
Thanks
to
for joining us.
say goodbye. Allow everybody to wend their own way. Wilfred, if you want to shut down the recording, you're welcome to.